This happened a few months ago. I was 34 and had just taken a job as a groundskeeper at a cemetery. After losing my office position, I thought it would be peaceful. I hoped it would be calm. At first, it was just that. I found some comfort there, at least more than at home. One evening, I was raking leaves in an old section. The sun was setting. Shadows stretched long between the tombstones. As I worked, I thought I heard something. It was faint, like a sob. I put down the rake and listened. It didn't stop. There was no one else around, and the sound sent a chill down my spine. I tried to convince myself I was just tired, but it felt real. Days passed, and things only got stranger. I began seeing shadows move between the mausoleums as night fell. At first, I thought it was my imagination. I tried to shake it off, but that feeling of wrongness lingered. One day, I spotted footmarks by a grave. It looked disturbed. I knew animals roamed the area, but my heart raced. I wished I could brush it off. The whispers I heard at night felt like they were reaching out for something. My unease grew. I felt watched. I couldn't shake the feeling. Some nights, the air was heavy like a weight settling on me. I felt crawling on my skin tiny insects that weren't there. I didn't understand it. I often found myself staring at that unmarked grave. I shouldn't have been, but I couldn't help it. As time crept on, it was hard to tell if I was losing it or if something was truly wrong. I'd stand at that grave sometimes, leaning on my rake in the night. I felt drawn to it, but I didn't want to feel that way. One night, as I surveyed the area, I thought I saw a figure flit between the gravestones. I turned, and nothing was there. The whispers swirled more insistently, surrounding me like fog. I asked out loud if anyone was there, not expecting to hear anything. Then I thought I heard my name called softly. A cold breath brushed against the back of my neck. I spun around fast, but there was only darkness. For a moment, I thought I saw something shift, but I couldn't be sure. My heart raced, echoing in my ears. I felt scared, confused. What was here with me? I couldn't explain what was happening anymore. I kept returning, hoping for answers. The whispers grew louder, and shadows danced just out of sight. I fought the urge to flee. Something was waiting for me. I don't know what it wanted. But even now, months later, I still feel that chilling breath when I think of it. I never found out what was truly behind those whispers, but that silence still haunts me. I returned to the cemetery the next day, feeling the weight of the night in my bones. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. That cold breath still lingered in my mind. As I entered the cemetery, the sun shone brighter, but it felt like a mask for the shadows lurking just beyond sight. While I worked, I decided to head toward that unmarked grave again. It drew me in like a moth to a flame. The whispers had become a constant hum in my head. I raked the leaves around it, feeling strange and uneasy. Lowering the rake, I knelt beside the grave, brushing my fingers over the cool earth. I don't know why, but I began to talk as if it could hear me. I explained my worries, feeling a mix of foolishness and desperation. When I heard it again, a soft sobbing, just as I had when I first arrived months ago. I froze. The sound was clearer now, crying and muffled, as if someone was begging for help from below. I stood up, heart hammering in my chest. "Is someone there?" I called out. Silence answered. My courage crumbled, and I glanced around, half expecting something to jump out from behind the stones. As I turned to leave, I spotted something glimmering by the grave. A small object lay partially buried in the dirt, catching the afternoon light. I felt compelled to approach it. Kneeling, I dug it out carefully. It was a locket, its surface scratched but ornate. I opened it and saw a faded photograph of a woman. She looked familiar, though I couldn't place her. Suddenly, the sobbing grew louder. Then it stopped. A chill ran through me. I snapped the locket shut and stood up quickly. "Hello?" I shouted again, my voice quivering. There was no response. I felt dizzy, like the ground beneath my feet had shifted. My breathing picked up as I stepped back, instinctively looking around. That sense of being watched was more intense now. Something was restless. I needed to figure out who she was. I slipped the locket into my pocket and left the grave, uneasy. My mind raced with questions. Why was it here? Who had been crying? Had it been connected to that woman? I suddenly felt a sense of urgency pulling me back, a need to uncover what I had touched. Just as I was about to reach my car, the shadows near the mausoleum caught my eye again. A figure darted between the stones, more distinct this time. I squinted, heart pounding again in my chest. I couldn't make out any features, but it moved with purpose, speeding away from the light. My skin prickled with fear. "Stop!" I blurted, but it was too late. It disappeared behind the stones. I hesitated, glancing back at the thicket of graves around me. Moments later, the wind picked up, and the air turned icy. The excitement mixed with dread in my stomach. Was it the woman? Had I stumbled onto something I shouldn't have? I turned to go back, wanting to confront what I saw. I needed to find out if it was real, or just another figment of my imagination. But as I took my first step, everything went dark. I woke up on the ground, my cheek pressed against the cool earth. Panic seized me. Where was I? How long had I been out? Blinking into the dim light filtering through the trees, I felt a burning sensation in my throat. It was quiet, too quiet. A bone-chilling silence layered over everything that I pushed myself up, my hands trembling. The grave was still in sight, but the unmarked spot where I had been kneeling felt like it haunted me even more. My heart raced as the memory of the figure flickered in my mind. With shaky breaths, I stood and looked around. The shadows seemed to ripple before my eyes, refusing to settle. "Hello?" I called, my voice wavering. No answer. Just that empty hush that I took a step toward the grave, the locket heavy in my pocket. Had I imagined all of it? The figure, the sobbing? I glanced at the mausoleum, and my stomach sank. I could almost hear whispering on the edge of my consciousness. It was overwhelming. Determined, I approached the unmarked grave again. I knelt down, pressing my hands into the earth. I felt compelled to unearth something, anything. What if there was more? What if something was hidden? Digging into the soil with my hands, I clawed deeper, unearthing more leaves and dirt. I wasn't thinking clearly, but I couldn't stop. Then I felt a sharp edge, a small box, just beneath the surface. My breath caught. I pulled it out, brushing off the dirt and revealing a small wooden box with intricate carvings. It was surprisingly light, almost delicate. The metal latch was rusty but still intact. I glanced around again, feeling like I was being watched. With a deep breath, I opened the box. Inside were letters, faded and yellowed with age. I picked up one, noticing a name scrawled at the top, Margaret. The sobbing echoed in my mind again, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Who was she? Suddenly, a sound made me freeze. A crunch of leaves nearby. I whipped my head in the direction of the noise. Someone was there, hiding behind the stones. My heart leapt into my throat. "Who's there?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I wouldn't open that if I were you," a voice said, low and gravelly. I couldn't see the person, just shadows shifting as they stepped closer. Fear gripped me. "Who are you? What do you want? Put it back." The voice held a strange urgency, almost desperate, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. Every instinct screamed for me to run. But curiosity held me in place. I couldn't understand why this was happening, why the figure had drawn me here. Ignoring my growing fear, I asked, "Why? What's in it? Is it connected to Margaret?" The figure emerged slowly, a man with a gaunt face, his eyes wide with a peculiar mix of sadness and anger. "You have no idea what you've just disturbed," he said, a tremor in his voice. Before I could respond, he lunged forward. My heart raced, and in an instinctive motion, I ripped the box from my lap and flung it behind me. The man froze. "Stop!" I yelled, backing away. Then I saw it a glimmer among the branches. That's when I saw it. A figure standing at the edge of the trees. Watching. Waiting. I squinted at the figure, my breath hitching in my throat. It wasn't just a silhouette. I could make out the shape of a woman, her long hair cascading down her back. She was dressed in what looked like a flowing white dress. The sight of her sent a chill through me. "Who are you?" I shouted, but she didn't respond. Instead, she moved closer, her feet barely disturbing the fallen leaves. I felt an instinctive urge to run, but my feet felt glued to the earth. "It's her," the man by my side said, his voice laced with disbelief. "Margaret." Panic clawed at my insides. "How do you know her?" I demanded, turning to him. "What do you want from me?" "Put it back," he repeated, inching toward the box I had thrown. I glanced back to where I had flung it but couldn't see it anymore. I needed to retrieve it. The letters inside might hold the key to what was happening. "Are you going to hurt me?" I asked, my voice trembling. He shook his head, his eyes filled with desperation. "No, but you don't understand. She's been waiting for so long." The woman had stopped moving, standing still as if she were a statue. I followed the man's gaze, confused. Waiting for what? The atmosphere shifted. A sudden wind rustled through the trees, and I felt a shiver snake down my spine. I let my eyes wander back to the woman, and my heart stopped. She was looking right at me. "Margaret." The word slipped out of me, unbidden. I didn't know why I called her name, but something about it felt necessary. My heart fluttered as I stepped forward. "Don't." The man grasped my arm, his grip firm as he pulled me back. "You can't just call her. It only makes things worse." "Worse? How?" My voice was rising, tinged with frustration. "What do you even know about this?" He seemed to wrestle with his thoughts, then his expression turned grim. "Opening that box, it's awakened her. It brought her here." I glanced back toward the figure, who remained still. "Awakened her? But she looks sad." "Exactly." The man's voice softened, haunted by what he had seen. "Margaret was lost. She couldn't find peace, and now you've stirred something that was meant to stay buried." I could almost feel the tension around us growing. The woman's presence was overwhelming, a mix of longing and despair. "What can I do?" I asked, my heart heavy with the weight of the situation. "How do I fix this?" His eyes widened, almost fearful. "You need to close the box." But it isn't just about the box, there are layers to this, choices that need to be made. Every instinct in my body urged me to flee, but curiosity kept me rooted. Then I remembered the letters. What if there's something in the letters that could help? The man hesitated. "They might explain her story. But be careful. Sometimes knowing too much can lead to more pain." I took a deep breath, determination setting in. I needed to retrieve the box, to learn about Margaret. I turned back to seek it out, but where I had thrown it was now a tangle of shadows. Then everything went dark. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dark. Confusion swirled around me, and I felt the air grow cold. Where was I? I strained to hear any sound, the wind, the leaves, anything that might give me a clue. Then a whispering voice echoed in the stillness. "Margaret." The sound sent a jolt through me. It wasn't the man's voice. I couldn't tell if it was coming from a direction or just filling the void around me. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. There was no answer, only silence that pressed in on me. Panic rushed through me as I took a small step forward, searching for any sign of the man or the woman. I remembered the box. Somehow, I needed to find it. As I moved cautiously, I felt a chill brush against my skin, igniting a feeling of dread. "Please, just let me find it," I whispered to no one. Suddenly, I was hit with a wave of warmth, like sunlight breaking through clouds. To my left, I caught a glimpse of white fabric fluttering in the shadows. My breath quickened. It was her again, Margaret. "Come closer," she beckoned, her voice a soft lull that both terrified and compelled me. I shook my head. "You're not real. You can't be real. You must listen." Her tone was sweet, almost coaxing. I darted my eyes around, looking for the man. "You have what I need," she continued, as if she never heard my doubt. "Need?" My voice trembled. "What do you mean? What do you want?" As I fought the urge to flee, I felt my heart race. I needed answers, but dread gnawed at my insides. Would learning more just dig me deeper? "Put it back." This time, the man's urgent voice broke through the stillness. "Where are you?" I cried, the fear bubbling over, pushing me toward Margaret. "Her sorrow calls to me," he said, sounding distant, as if he were lost too. "But you can't understand the depths of her grief. You shouldn't have called her." "Called her?" I turned to the shadow where I thought he stood, but it was only darkness. "What does that even mean?" "Only you can mend what is broken," he said, his voice now stronger, more assertive. "But it may cost you." I hesitated. "Cost me? What can she do?" "More than you think." The breath caught in my throat as I turned back to Margaret. She was no longer silent, her eyes locked onto mine, glistening with what looked like unspilled tears. "I can guide you," she said softly. "If you will let me." Suddenly, a bright flash illuminated the area, momentarily blinding me. When I could see again, I was no longer in the woods. I stood at the edge of a grave, the earth freshly turned. My heart pounded in my chest as I read the name etched into the stone, Margaret Hawthorne. I stumbled back, and that s when I saw it, a glint of something beneath the soil. "Margaret!" I shouted, panicked. "What have I done?" The ground shook slightly, and a wind rushed past me, carrying whispers that twisted my thoughts. I could feel her presence all around me, chilling and electric. That moment made everything worse. It was not just about a box anymore. I was tangled in something much darker. Now I really had to choose. I stumbled back from the grave, heart racing. It was hard to think. The name on the stone was like a weight in my chest. Margaret Hawthorne. I was standing by her grave. What have I done? The question hung in the air, unanswered, swirling with confusion. With my heart pounding, I knelt down to the edge of the grave. The glint beneath the soil called to me, promising answers but threatening deeper dangers. My fingers shook as I brushed away dirt. I had to know. What was buried here? As I cleared away the earth, I felt a strange pull, as if something in the ground was stirring. Goosebumps prickled my arms. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a cacophony of dread and urgency. They spoke of losses I couldn't understand, of heartaches that lingered too long. "Margaret," I whispered, voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The air shifted again, and suddenly I felt her presence wrap around me like an icy embrace. "You have called me here." Her voice was clearer now, melodic yet unsettling. "You've opened a door." "A door?" I pressed on, still digging instinctively. I couldn't stop myself. "What door? What does it lead to?" "It leads to truth," she replied, her tone distant, fragmented. I can show you everything. Then, without warning, the ground beneath me trembled violently. I lost my balance and fell backward, landing hard on the cold, damp grass. Panic washed over me as the whispers intensified, no longer pleasant but frantic, desperate. "Get up," a new, deep voice shouted from the shadows. My eyes darted around, trying to find the source. The man from before? I still didn't know what he had meant when he warned me about her grief. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, scrambling to my feet. "What do you want?" The shadows shifted, and suddenly he appeared, his face half hidden in the dark. "You shouldn't have disturbed her rest," he said, his words weighted with urgency. "She doesn't understand what this means." "Then help me," I cried out, feeling the desperate need to grasp the situation. "Tell me what to do. I don't want to be a part of this." The man stepped closer, the light from somewhere casting strange shadows on his features. "You are already a part of it," he said solemnly. "You can't go back. You've called them both, and now you must face the consequences." As he spoke, the whispers turned frantic, converging into a single chilling cry. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it was no use. The sound seeped into my very bones, and I felt my head spin. "Make the choice." Margaret's voice soared above the chaos. "Join me or let me go." Suddenly, the glimmer in the grave caught my eye again, and it seemed to pulse with ethereal light. I needed to know what lay beneath that soil, but the urgency of Margaret's words and the man's warning clamored for my attention. Breath caught in my throat, I looked back at the grave one last time. "What's in the box?" I shouted, desperation spilling out. "What will happen if I take it?" Silence fell, heavy and thick, and everyone held their breath. Then, a single answer cut through the air, ringing as clear as a bell. "More than you can imagine." My heart raced. I was on the brink of a choice that could change everything. What did I really know about Margaret, her box, or the darkness looming around me? The world around me began to shift. I was trapped in a nightmare, and no matter how hard I tried to wake up, I only sank deeper. The whispers were now swirling into a tempest, each voice layered with anguish and a desperate longing for release. "Margaret!" I shouted again, but it felt futile. Not even the wind carried my plea. The man in the shadows had a look of urgency mixed with deep concern as he stepped closer. "Listen," he said urgently. "You can't grasp what you're touching." The box as before he could finish, the ground shook violently again. A surge of energy emanated from the grave, pushing me back to my knees. I watched, helpless, as all the dirt I had removed began to swirl upward, spiraling like a tornado. My breath hitched in my throat. And then, the box surfaced. It rose slowly, gleaming and untouched, despite being buried in despair. It was ornate, covered in intricate etchings that danced in the dim light. I could sense its power even from a distance. "Do not touch it!" The man yelled, panic creeping into his voice. "You don't know what it holds." But I was entranced. All of this mystery, all this fear, it was overwhelming, yet compelling. I felt like a moth to a flame. "What do you mean?" I asked, my curiosity battling my best judgment. He hesitated, glancing between me and the box. "It's not just a box. It's a vessel for her grief. It holds every facet of her pain, her loss. If you unleash it, it won't just affect her. It will shatter reality itself. Can't I help her?" I felt a flicker of warmth amidst the cold dread that engulfed me. "Maybe knowing the truth will free her." "You don't understand." He sounded frantic now, his voice cutting through the howling winds. "Sometimes the truth only brings suffering. To know it is to bear what should never have been yours to hold." The whispers surged, forming into a seething wave of fear, rising like a tide ready to crash. I felt myself struggling against a tide of emotion. My heart raced as dread wrapped around me like chains. Then, something unexpected happened. The ground near the box cracked open, revealing glowing roots that pulsed with light. I gasped, instinctively drawing closer. A part of me felt like I belonged here, entangled with the inner workings of this unknown. I wanted answers. That's when I saw it. A hand, small and fragile, reached out from the roots. It beckoned to me, inviting me into a darkness that felt oddly familiar. In that moment, I knew I faced a choice. The whispers grew chaotic, swirling with anger and sorrow, pushing me to make a decision. "Margaret! Help me!" I cried, ignoring the fear in the man's eyes. I was ready, I needed to understand. But then darkness enveloped me, and for a fleeting moment, I just glimpsed the truth. Reality shifted, revealing snippets of Margaret's past, her sorrow, her battles. It was a glimpse into a storm I wasn't sure I could survive. Then everything went dark. My heart stopped. What had I unleashed? I gasped and jolted awake, the damp earth pressing against my back. My heart raced. I wasn't in the grave anymore, yet the chilling aura clung to me. I sat up, blinking against the pervasive darkness. Shadows danced around me, but the box was gone. "Where am I?" I whispered. My voice broke the suffocating silence. I was still in the cemetery, but it felt different, more twisted. The moon hung low, casting long, eerie shadows. I stood, brushing dirt from my clothes. "Margaret?" I called out, my words hanging in the air. No answer. Just the faint rustle of leaves and the distant chirp of insects. I took a step forward, scanning the shadows for any sign of the man who had warned me. He seemed to have vanished. As I walked, I stumbled upon an old headstone, its inscription worn and faded. I knelt to examine it, brushing away the dirt. The name was barely readable, but the dates indicated a tragic life. I couldn't shake the feeling that this grave was somehow connected to Margaret. Suddenly, I heard a soft whimper, breaking my focus. My heart leapt. "Margaret?" I called again, heart pounding. I turned, the sound coming from a cluster of trees nearby. Hesitant but driven by an unyielding urge to help her, I moved toward the noise. The trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches straining in the wind. As I approached, I could see a figure curled up against the trunk of one. Dread filled my belly. I took a cautious step closer, and as I did, the whispers returned, swirling around me like a toxic fog. "Who's there?" The figure murmured, their voice trembling. I realized it wasn't Margaret. "Just me. I'm trying to find her." Are you okay?" I stammered. The figure looked up, revealing a face pale and streaked with tears. "You shouldn't have come here. The darkness hungers for the light. It's too late." "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling every muscle in my body tense. "They'll come for you too," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "They're searching. They want what you've touched." I felt a chill wash over me. "What did I touch?" "The box," she said, her eyes wide with fear. "It's a curse." Before I could respond, the wind picked up, howling through the trees. A heavy presence permeated the air. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadows, a silhouette cloaked in darkness, menacing and unrelenting. "Run!" I shouted, panic setting in. The figure lunged toward us. I grabbed the woman's wrist, pulling her up. "We need to get out of here." We sprinted through the trees, and I could hear the whispers behind us, chanting, rising in a frenzy. I glanced back and saw not only the cloaked figure but the shadows forming into something more, a circle of anguish, lost souls twisted in torment. We burst into the clearing, the moon illuminating our path, but it was too late. The shadows closed in, and I felt the weight of their despair enveloping me. "Don't let go," I urged her, but just as we reached the edge, a brilliant flash of light blinded us. Then, just like that, the world shifted again. I screamed as everything around me dissolved, and I felt myself falling into an abyss, slipping away from the fleeting hope of rescue. What awaited me in that darkness? I hit the ground with a thud, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. Cold air wrapped around me, sharp and biting. I opened my eyes. Dim light filtered through the clouds, a sky heavy with impending rain. I was no longer in the cemetery, but everything still felt strange. I pushed myself up and looked around. I stood in what seemed to be a long-abandoned park. The grass was overgrown, and rusted playground equipment creaked softly in the light breeze. Trees with twisted branches loomed over me like dark sentinels, their leaves whispering secrets that sent shivers down my spine. "Margaret?" I called weakly, but my voice felt small against the vast emptiness. Panic stirred in my chest as I took a hesitant step forward. The dread I felt in the cemetery began to creep back in. When the wind rustled the grass, I froze. "Hello?" I shouted, hoping for an answer I knew wouldn't come. I scanned my surroundings, feeling like I was being watched. That's when I saw a flicker of movement by the old swings. Against my better judgment, I moved closer, every instinct screaming to get away. The shadows shifted, and there, among the weeds, I spotted a figure, the same woman I had encountered in the trees. "What are you doing here?" I stammered, my throat dry. "You scared me." Her eyes darted around, wild and panicked. "You followed me, didn't you?" she whispered, trembling. "Don't you understand? You didn't escape." "What do you mean?" I began, but my words died in my throat as she raised a hand to silence me. "They'll find you," she said, her voice shaky. "The shadows never let go." As she spoke, a dark fog rolled in, creeping toward us like a living thing. I could feel the air shift, pressing against my skin like a heavy weight. "We have to get out of here," I shouted, panic rising again. But she remained frozen, gazing into the darkness that enveloped us. "There's nowhere to run. It just takes you back. It's a loop." I looked back toward the path I came, and dread filled my heart again as I saw shadowy figures emerging from the gloom, mournful faces contorted in anguish. The very same lost souls I had glimpsed in the cemetery. "Please, help me," I cried out, reaching for her, but right before I could touch her, the darkness surged. I felt a cold grip around my wrist, pulling me back toward the veil of shadows. I fought against it, but I was losing strength. "Don't fight it," she screamed, but I didn't know how to stop. I wanted to escape, to break free, but the shadows closed in, their whispers becoming deafening, drowning out my thoughts. My fingers slipped from her grasp, and I felt the pull of the void once more, the world around me blurring into an unrecognizable swirl. As everything around me fell away, a chilling realization pierced through the chaos. I was nowhere near done unraveling the mystery of that darkness. Then everything went dark. When I regained consciousness, I found myself sitting on the ground, the cool dampness seeping through my jeans. I blinked, taking in my surroundings. I was back in the cemetery, but everything was different. The air felt heavier, and the shadows clung to the tombstones like they were alive, pulsating with an almost tangible energy. I stood up, heart racing as memories of the darkness flooded back. "Margaret!" I called out, my voice echoing off the stones. No answer came, just the rustle of leaves in the eerie stillness. The whispers had fallen silent, as if the cemetery was holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. I walked toward the unmarked grave, the one that had led me down this harrowing path. The soil was freshly turned, still dark and unyielding. I crouched, palms pressed against the earth, feeling an unsettling connection. What secrets lay buried here? And were there still answers left to uncover, or was I meant only to endure the torment? Suddenly, I felt a presence behind me. I whipped around, ready to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. There was only a figure standing a few graves away, a woman in a flowing white dress, her long hair spilling down her back. The sight sent an icy shiver down my spine. "Is it you?" I breathed out, unsure if I was somehow seeing Margaret materialize before me or merely conjuring memories in despair. "Help me," she whispered, voice gentle yet laced with anguish. I took a step forward, desire for understanding pushing me against the weight of fear that threatened to pull me back. I needed to know what she wanted, what I had entwined myself in. "Please tell me how to break this cycle," I pleaded, aware of the shadows stirring anxiously behind me, where the darkness lingered. "What is it that you need from me?" As if my question hung in the air, the ground trembled, pulling my focus back to where my hands had touched. The whispers returned, rising like a tide, swirling around my mind. "You must choose," she said, gliding closer. Her eyes locked onto mine, gleaming with tears that sparkled even in the dim light. "Let go or hold on." I hesitated. "Hold on to what?" "Every soul carries a weight." "Yours is heavy," she replied softly. "Let it go, and the pain will recede. But bind yourself to me, to my sorrow, and together we can confront the darkness." Images flickered through my mind, pieces of what I had learned, what I touched, the crescent glimpses into the depths of despair entangled with hope. "Is it so easy?" I questioned, the thoughts tumbling chaotic around me. "You know better than anyone what must I sacrifice." In that moment, the man, the one who had warned me, stepped into view, his face drawn tight with urgency. "You can't let her deceive you," he warned, dread lacing his tone. "Margaret is lost, and binding to her will only lead to more suffering for both of you." I glanced between them, the weight of their existences crashing into me like waves. I could sense the truth coursing through my veins, but it felt dangerously close to danger. "What if I don't take a side?" I ventured, unsure of the choice. "What if I walk away?" The shadows screeched a collective wail that chilled me to the bone. It was as if they pulsed with an anger that demanded resolution. "You cannot escape," they shouted, voices intermingling into a frantic cacophony of despair. "Choices have consequences," Margaret echoed, her voice steadier now. "You must make a choice. This land is angry, restless, broken." The shadows twisted, morphing into anguished figures reaching for me, spectral hands grasping, seeking my connection. In that excruciating moment, I felt the weight of countless spirits pressing on my chest, tugging me into their tumult. "I don't know what to do," I gasped as a wave of pressure threatened to crush me. "You have to decide," the man urged. "Either you let go of her sorrow, or become entwined in her grief forever." I glanced back at Margaret, who remained still, her sadness palpable, yet within it was a flicker, a glint of hope calling out to me. The voices around me clamored for attention, but one truth remained: I had stumbled upon something uncontrollable, something that claimed me the moment I unearthing that box. "Join me," Margaret's voice broke through the chaos. "Let us bring light back." Suddenly, the world slowed. I was no longer aware of the shadows or the man. Only her words reverberated within my mind, a soft plea anchored in hope. And somehow, I knew what I needed to do. That I took a deep cleansing breath. "I choose to let go," I declared, feeling solidity return beneath my feet. "I let you go, Margaret." With those words, the air shifted, a powerful gust sweeping through the cemetery, and I felt warmth wash over me, illuminating the darkness. The shadows screeched in a cacophony of rage as they became frayed threads of despair ripped from their bindings. Margaret began to dissolve into mist, her sorrow lifting. "No. You can't." The man shouted, his face twisted in fear, but I didn't look back. I felt myself lighten as I poured all my regrets, doubts, and fears into the earth. With a blinding flash, I closed my eyes against the brightness, and in that instant, everything went quiet. When I opened my eyes again, I was alone. The cemetery was now still. The shadows drove back to their corners, slowly fading into nothingness. I stood by the unmarked grave, untouched and silent, yet a part of me felt unburdened. But questions remained echoing in the hollows of my mind. Did I truly free the souls, or merely shift the cycle? I turned away from the grave, finally feeling as though I could move on. A part of me still pondered the mysteries of Margaret and the truth within that box. Would there ever be clarity, or was I just another soul in the web of their stories? But as I made my way to the cemetery gates, I couldn't shake the feeling that while its shadows had receded, they still lingered somewhere waiting, watching that I left that place with my heart slightly lighter, but I suspected the echoes of that night would follow me. I didn't know what haunted that cemetery or how I would carry it with me, but one truth settled in my chest: I had stepped into the unknown, and whether I had escaped or merely postponed my fate, I'd never quite know.